to Ken Nickel Recreation Center for Senior B action, where the Beaumont Outlaws will host the Fort Saskatchewan Rebels. First offensive possession, it's the Outlaws and Forgrave taking a shot. Ball goes into the far corner where it's picked up by Royer. Ball with Royer now over to Forgrave. Forgrave tried to float one to the far side. Just missed, and now Royer behind the back fake. Tried to hit Beaumont. Beaumont rolls one into the corner, and it'll be Rebel ball. Where it'll be grabbed by Ethan Peterson and run down the far boards. Peterson tried to feed it to Basisti, got knocked down, and Peterson picks it back up. Basisti to McCallion. McCallion, drag move, got it to, that looks like George, and the pass went astray, went awry, and now Dallin Rye will have it for the Outlaws. Rye up to Royer at the top of the floor. Here is Forgrave, tried to flip it inside. And that did not work out. The ball comes back up high to Rye. Rye down to Royer. Royer shoots short side, and it's just sneaks through. And it's 1-0 Outlaws. Looks like Zach Stable in net. There was a delayed call coming up against the Rebels, but it'll be wiped out by the goal. The Outlaws take the early 1-0 lead. Now off the draw, they tie it up, and the ball is picked up by Murphy, who gets the ball to McAdam and gets it back. Now Greg Beret up high. Ball swings into the stick of Murphy, who got it quickly back over to the righties, and that shot gets fought off by the Outlaws. Now back the other way goes Dewart for the Outlaws. Josh Dewart fires it over to the left side. Shot comes in, low. Josh Dewart. It's 2-0. It's the Outlaws with a couple of outside looks. First Royer, now Dewart. And they took an early 2-0 lead. Ball drawn back and picked up by the Outlaws. Forgrave into the middle, and that goes in through Stable. As Luke Royer still wearing his Warriors bucket. Puts the Outlaws up by 3. Ball is picked up by Royer off the draw, and he absorbs a couple of hacks. That'll be a call. And the Rebels will go to the box. It's McCallion. Goes to the sin bin. The Outlaws power play hits the floor. Yeah, I do not believe 91 is Beaumont. I gotta think that's Sandberg for the Outlaws. Harris back up top to Royer. Forgrave. Sandberg behind the back. Harris low to low, stopped by Stable. Stable tries to hit George about mid-floor, and the ball gets knocked down into the Outlaws zone. Here's Dallin Rye. The Outlaw power play returns to the floor. Sandberg, Rye, Royer, back to Rye on the shooter. Sandberg steps into one right in the belly of Stable. As it's carried up by the Rebels. Scrimshaw is pressured, and here's Rye. Rye down low to Forgrave on the quick stick. 4-0. And the ever dangerous Forgrave, don't want to leave him down low on the crease. That's his office. He makes no mistake on the quick stick, and the Outlaws out to a quick 4-0 lead, and we're going to see a goalie change here. Stable comes out. And I have to think that's Schmidt going into the net, even though the number doesn't match. As the ball is shot in and picked back up by the Outlaws. Ball on the half wall, swung from Simonson to Dewart. Dewart bounces it short side, 5-0. So some former Warriors connecting on that, Simonson and Dewart. There's actually 4 Outlaws on the front gate who are former Tier 1 Warriors, Junior B Warriors. Luke and Joe Royer, Josh Dewart, and Sebastian Simonson. And off the draw, picked up by the Outlaws. Simonson up with Sandberg. Now Royer. Tokar comes running in on the right side. He sets a pick. Ball up high, Forgrave. Back to Tokar, who swings it quickly over to Sandberg. Sandberg rolls back, and he got it to Royer, who took a jumping shot. That's handled by Stable, who goes back in, and that is not Schmidt who went in. That looks like LeBlanc for the Rebels, who momentarily went in, and Stable goes back into the cage. You can just tell by looking at who that is on the gate there. That's LeBlanc, I believe. As the Outlaws maintain possession here, and they've had the ball in this end all period so far. Royer up to his brother, Joe. Stopped by Stable. Murphy is going to look to transition out. He's chased there by Forgrave. Ball with Beret. Now on the half wall with Peterson. Beret. The ball swings across back to Beret. That shot well wide on the underhand. Basisti is going to have to chase this down. And Basisti throws that deep into the Outlaws zone on the shot clock expiration. Here's Dallin Rye, handing it off to Forgrave. Forgrave down low. Simonson hops out of the corner. Ball swings quickly back over to Sandberg, and he misses the net. Far side, low to low. And now Simonson with a fake and pulls it around his defender. Simonson, Sandberg. Simonson slips into the middle wide open, but Sandberg elected to shoot. And the Rebels come back the other way. As the Outlaws heavy pressure up near center floor. Here's McCallion. McCallion to Wheaton. Wheaton bounced that low on Cavalinas. And it's turned away. Here's McCann. Shot from the wrong side of the floor. It goes out of play. It'll be Rebel ball. As the ball turns over. The Outlaws have numbers. Here's Green. He got the ball over to, looks like Tavis Needham with the opportunity. Good stop there by Stable. The Rebels looking for some traction here in this game as Beret races over center. Beret getting chased. He gets the ball to Peterson. Got it to Wheaton. Wheaton up top. Shot comes in from Wildeboer. Ball with Wheaton as they get the reset. Wheaton up to George. George hits Peterson down on the crease. Didn't quite bring it in. And Rye grabs the loose ball. The Outlaws back the other way. Baldock to Simonson. Now the ball is dribbled into the crease of Stable. And the long lead pass is out of the reach of Alex Wildeboer. And Stefan Nielsen hands the ball off. Here's Sandberg to Forgrave off the half wall. He gets it up high. Dewart coming off the bench. He gets it to Royer on the opposite side of the floor. Royer with the shot handled by Stable. Royer's chased out on the loose ball. Royer in behind the net. Now the ball back up. Dewart fires. That's stopped by Stable. Dewart playing with a lot of confidence here. Getting a lot of shots early on, and he's feeling it after a couple of early tallies. Forgrave up to Luke Royer. Royer to brother Joe. Half wall operating left side. Simonson. The Outlaws got a lot of offensive threats they can throw at you out this front gate. And you're seeing it right now as Forgrave rips it past Stable. It's 6-0. You see a lot of the better shooters do it. And Forgrave leaned, you saw him lean to that short side and got the goalie to move with him and then fired it back to the far side high. And that's a higher end level of skill. Guys with a higher IQ, a higher level of skill are able to do that. And that came to fruition there. Now the ball with Sandberg. Sandberg out of Delta, BC. Gets it to Simonson. Simonson to Dewart. He surveys and he gets it over to the left side. Back to Sandberg. Royer. Now Simonson. Quick swing and he rips it into the top corner. 7-0 as the Outlaws go up by a touchdown. Those were quick swings, and you want to watch good offense. That set right there is what you talk about and what you want to see from your team, and that was executed very well on the double swing. Simonson, I believe, gets his first as a senior. They put an extra goal up on the board. It's 7-0, not 8-0. They'll correct that, and the Outlaws are going to continue to push the pace here. Forgrave scores. Ethan Forgrave I believe already with a hat trick here, just over 10 minutes in. So the Outlaws now, I guess maybe they saw something coming, the people in the box, because they had 8, now it is 8. 8-0 for the Beaumont Outlaws. And the Rebels gonna have to reel this thing in, and this is always a tough position to be in. It's obviously demoralizing, and you just gotta find a couple plays here and there that can maybe turn the tide a little bit. Once you get 1 or 2, things can change. But 8-0 is a tough road to climb as George drags through a couple defenders. Osterman meets him there, and the ball bounces up near the top of the dotted line. And it's brought back out by the Outlaws. Tokar off the bench. Royer, Sandberg across the top, missed the net. And they give him a reset, so it must have hit stable. And here go the Rebels in transition. As Fowler comes up floor. Fowler getting harassed. And now the ball turns back over into Outlaws possession. Here's Dallin Rye, wearing his signature high black socks. Not extremely high, but he just wears them a little bit higher than most guys do. Stands out. Simonson in front, and Forgrave hit the butt end of the stick of Stable. Ball goes into the far corner where Royer is knocked away from it, and the Rebels transition out. 8 minutes to go here in the first period. 8-0. Yes, the score is correct. It's 8-0 Outlaws early here. And now we'll have our first media timeout of the game at the 7:54 mark, and we'll take that time to I don't know what I'm talking about here. I want to bring up though, Battle of the Border during this media timeout. Battle of the Border is back this September in Missoula, Montana. Tour the beautiful University of Montana campus. Learn about the GrizzLax program and full ride scholarships available for Canadians, all while taking part in the North versus South box lacrosse game. Learn about it more on Instagram at Battle of the Border Lax. The Rebels are going to, I assume, take this time to try to regroup here. I don't really know how much you can say or what is going to be said at this time, but got to do something to try to turn it around. Still a lot of time. And play will be blown back in with Harris starting to play up. There's Forgrave, already with 3. Dallin Rye, half wall on the far side. Back up to Forgrave. A little seal there for Forgrave. He runs out of room, swings it back over to Rye. It was out of his reach. And the ball bounces into the crease where Stable will pick it up. Ball is thrown up to mid-floor where George is going to be doubled. And the ball is picked back up, but the Outlaws being very aggressive in the middle of the floor. They've turned the ball over a few times on the Rebels. As Royer up to Luke Royer. Luke down to Simonson. Simonson all the way across the floor to Tokar, gets it back, drags it underneath, and now rolls back up. And then backdoor, they tried to hit Luke, and the ball didn't quite get there. It looked like it got knocked down as the Rebels look to go up floor. And now the ball is going to bounce near center floor. And healthy hack there, taken by imagine McBride. As Forgrave comes back down into the zone. He throws that low on Dewar. Dewar will backtrack this and save it from over and back. Here's Sebastian Simonson down to Forgrave. Forgrave into the middle on a slip from Simonson, and he gets his own rebound. He puts it in the net. They say no goal. And it'll be Rebel ball. As the Rebels have to deal with some more heavy traffic. And now the rebound comes out to Peterson, and he got turned away. Peterson, a guy who's always hanging around the net, and he's good, very good at jumping on loose balls and kind of mucking it up, getting second chance opportunities. He's like a really good rebounder in basketball. As the ball gets swung over to Forgrave. Forgrave back over to Rye, to Forgrave. He looks, he pumps, he's gonna step back as he's chased out, and the ball is turned over and it's picked up by the Rebels. As they make their way out on the floor, here's Beret off the bench. Behind him, long-time goal scorer is Greg Beret. And he's looking to help his team get on the board here. Here's George, behind the back. Beret tried to throw behind the back on net, and it got knocked down by a body. 5 minutes to go here, first period. Outlaws 8, Rebels nothing. Now in transition, the Outlaws move through the floor. Simonson gets it to Dewart. He goes to Tokar. Tokar winds and fires, and he snips the top far corner. 9-0. Real nice shot there from Tokar. Quick release, and it had a lot of zip on it. High to high, and the Outlaws now lead by 9. Ball drawn back, picked up by the Rebels, where Murphy will control. Here's Murphy. Murphy over to Peterson. Peterson gets it to Wildeboer. And the Rebels struggling to move the ball here. McCallion bounces it, and he almost caught the top short corner. But that bounced up into the ceiling. It'll be Outlaws ball. Yeah, you never want to see guys holding on to it and allowing that second defender to come over. That's sort of what's happening to the Rebels right now. As that behind the back attempt goes wide. And the Rebels possess once again. Here's Beret. Beret is chased into the corner by 2 Outlaws. Beret hit there. He rolls out. Beret in front. And he almost tucked it far side. And then the rebound comes back out, and George couldn't really tell where that shot went, but it's picked off. And 2-on-1, Rye in transition. And Stable gets enough of that. Here are the Rebels. Noyen carries it out. Noyen bounces it to nobody into the crease of Cavalinas. And it's transitioned back up by the Outlaws. Tokar in behind the net to Simonson. Simonson looks, gets it up to Luke Royer. He swings it over to Tokar. Now down in the far half wall to Joe Royer. The ball is knocked down by a Rebel stick. Good job by George. And now here go the Rebels. And that's Ryan McBride rumbling down the floor. And he floats it into the stick of Cavalinas, who kind of pushed the ball back out. And it was picked up and thrown into the net. Looks like George with that goal sit 9-1 now with 2:32 to go in the first period. The Rebels win the draw, and they will come back up floor. Peterson. Beret. Now down to McCallion. McCallion dangerous and couldn't quite get underneath his defender at a good enough angle. And they say McCallion ran through the crease and it'll be outlaw ball. As Peterson and can't quite tell you who that is that he was pushing and shoving with, but ball is up high with Harris. Sandberg, Tokar, back to Sandberg. Sandberg bounces it in on Stable. Loose ball, Dewar, twister, scores. So off the top of my head, that's a hat trick for Dewar now. Forgrave already with a hat trick. And the Outlaws offense is kicked into high gear here. 10 goals in a period, folks, is insane. I don't even know what to equate it to, but it's, you very, very rarely see it. Be like a 80-point half in basketball by a team. As the ball is picked up by Simonson. Here's Sebastian Simonson. He hands it off to Joe. Actually, that was a hidden ball. Simonson still has it. Now Joe has it from the pass off of Dewar. Joe swings it into the stick of his brother Luke, and that's stopped by Stable. Here's Joe Royer. Swings it across floor to Sebastian Simonson. Simonson pulls it down the wall. Now he swings it to Dewar. Now Simonson in front off the pass from Luke. Hits the crossbar, and the Outlaws get the reset. Here's Royer. Tokar joins the party here. Simonson hopping around. He gets it swung over to Joe Royer. Looks to the middle of the floor, back up to Simonson. Now Luke Royer. Swung back to Tokar. Rips it low on Stable. He stops that with ease, and the Rebels are going to call a timeout in this first period with 27 seconds remaining and try to draw something up. I want to thank you for joining us here on CROW LAX TV. Just hit subscribe. You'll be notified every time a game goes live. So it'll be Rebel possession here. Got Peterson, Basisti, George, McCallion, Wheaton, and Beret. Going 6-on-5, the Rebels pull their goalie. And here is the ball with George. George over to Peterson, and they're going to wait here, obviously, to about the 7-8 second mark before they run anything. And now they're going to get going. Double up pick there, and a shot. I don't even, George, man, like, just always hanging around the crease, much like Peterson, grabbing balls and putting them home. He gets his second with 1 second left on the clock. And it's 10-2. And that'll do it for the opening frame, where the Outlaws will take a 10-2 lead into the locker room. We'll be right back with you in 10 minutes time after one. It's the Beaumont Outlaws 10, the Fort Saskatchewan Rebels 2. Back at you in just under 10 minutes. Welcome back inside Ken Nickel Recreation Center, where it is the hometown Outlaws up big on the visiting Rebels by a score of 10-2. The Outlaws offense was the story of the period. Forgrave and Dewart going off for 3 each. Simonson all over the place, amongst others. As the ball is picked up by Green off the draw. And he gets it over to Simonson. Simonson looking to dish. He gets it to Royer. Royer, pick set there for him. He swung it over to Forgrave. They call moving. As the Rebels go forward, and Forgrave was a little bit behind the play there, but he caught up and he stripped the ball away. But the Rebels get the loose ball back. Good hustle there by Forgrave as the ball is picked up. Here's Basisti, guy that's going to have to really get going for the Rebels here if they want to make any kind of comeback. George, jump shot, stopped. It's probably going to have to be George, Basisti, maybe a little bit of Beret here for the Rebels. Greg, obviously a prolific scorer for a very long time. As the ball comes in, it's soaked by a defender. Here's Forgrave. Rainbow right into the stick of his target. And that looks like Baldock, who tucks it inside the post. It's 11-2. Beautiful pass from Forgrave to set him up. Draw. It's McCann. Ball is picked up and possessed by McCallion. McCallion is going to go deep into the Outlaw zone. He rolls back, gets it up to Wildeboer. Wildeboer fires and scores low, short side on Cavalinas. Ball is drawn back, picked up by Green for the Outlaws. Royer quickly down to Rye. Rye inside feed, out of the reach of Royer. Simonson now with it. Simonson back over to Rye. Dallin Rye looking, tried to get it to Simonson. Ball's knocked away. Harris shoots that. That goes wide. And then sent it on net again. And that's timed by Rye. Stopped by Stable. Reset here. As the Rebels double and turn the ball over. Here's Alex Wildeboer. With a shot on the run. Stopped by Cavalinas. Here comes the Outlaws. Forgrave down low to Harris, and then back to Forgrave as he slipped through the middle. Stopped by Stable. Outlaws doing really good with that. Those little slip picks into the middle of the floor. You've seen Simonson do it. You've seen Forgrave do it. As the ball gets ripped wide by Forgrave. And here goes McBride, who's going to try and bull his way through a man. Does not work. And McCann gets it back. Good stop there by Stable. Ball's picked up and the Rebels transition back out. Ball up floor, out of the reach of Nolski. Murphy picks up the loose change. And the Rebels set up. Here's Beret. Beret tried to go low there. Ball goes off a body and back into the crease of Cavalinas. As he hits the ceiling there, and it'll turn over into Rebel possession. 16-19 to go here, second period. Rebels down by a score of 11-3, but with the ball. Now the ball gets shot off a body again and picked up by the Outlaws. They're going to transition out here. Here are the Outlaws as they had numbers. McCann again, stable, turns them away. Now long floor pass is going to be not quite brought in as Peterson is going to draw an interference call, and it'll be Rebel possession. Here's McCallion up high. Here's Peterson. Peterson feeds it Basisti. Basisti tried to outweight Cavalinas and go around him. Cavalinas makes the save. They're going to call a cross check though, and Rebels will go to the power play. Here's McCallion. George, Beret behind the net to Wheaton. Seal, and McCallion shoots over top of it. Seal came from Basisti. And it's going to be a Rebel reset here. Basisti. Wheaton back up to Basisti. McCallion. Now down to Wheaton across the crease to Beret. Basisti. Basisti tried to rip it over to Beret out of his reach. He grabs the loose ball. Beret tried to bank it in off of Cavalinas. And the ball is picked up by the Outlaws. Horlak running up floor. Tried to hit his man. Didn't work. And the Rebels turn around and head north. Ball moved up to Basisti. Peterson. Wheaton. Here's George. Back up to Basisti. Basisti. Wildeboer. Wildeboer into the stick of Cavalinas. Here's Nilsson. He lobs it up the floor. Got knocked down by George. Here's Wildeboer. McCallion. Wheaton. Peterson on the shooter, back up. Seal set there by Wildeboer, but McCallion didn't shoot it. He tried to get it down low to George, who got run into the boards. And they're going to need to send someone out to attend to him. And now the Outlaws are going to go to the box. For unsportsmanlike, Nilsson will serve it. So we'll hope George is all right. As the Rebel power play starts back up. Here's Wheaton down low. Wheaton, Basisti. As the ball works away across the top, skip down to McCallion, and quick stick stop by Cavalinas. Good save there by the goaltender. And the Rebels will get a reset as they repossess the ball here. And it goes from a 4-on-3 to a 5-on-4. As a couple players come out of the box. Here's Peterson up to Basisti. Wildeboer, low to low, stopped by Cavalinas. As Needham takes a hack there from McCallion, runs through it, and he defers to Simonson. 13-13 to go here, second period. Outlaws up big here, 11-3. As the ball gets turned over, Murphy is going to run here. Hands it off to Beret. Bray comes in on the right side. Pick set there, backdoor, he tried to hit Wheaton, who was posted up on the far crease. Basisti inside to McCallion, ball goes loose. Wheaton's gonna have to track this down in the corner. He comes out with it, but he's stripped. And the Outlaws come back down floor. Good job by Green to run away. As Rye just tries to outweight some of this time on the clock. The Outlaws still with about 10 seconds to kill. And he'll just flip it in the corner. It'll be Rebel possession with 4 seconds remaining on the power. Here's Wildeboer. Wildeboer chased. Gets it up to Beret. Beret looking, surveying. Behind the back pass. Just missed Basisti in the middle. Beret picks up the loose ball behind the back to McCallion. McCallion fires it into the far side top corner. Good pass there from Beret. It's 11-4. The ball goes to the far boards off the draw. McAdam is going to have to try to run this down. And he gets it over to the far side of the floor, but it's missed. Looks like maybe Barrett. As a twister and a goal from Adam Horlak, Crude alumni, and also grew up playing for the Edmonton Warriors in the South Side. Spent last year in Ontario. I believe he played for a team called Clairview in the Senior B Loop. Back in Alberta, back home, and he's got his first of the game to make it 12-4. And here's Murphy. Fraser Barrett. Barrett, McCallion. McCallion is going to get it up to George, who's back on the floor after getting hit into the far boards there. Here's Basisti. Skips up, and he fires it into the stick of Cavalinas. Lots of goals here, not just approaching the halfway mark here. We already have 16 of them. 12 of them are from the Outlaws. Forgrave backs out, and he's going to get it up high to Simonson. Simonson over to Rye. Rye's going to get a pick set here. Oh, no, Joe slips it. He's inside. Joe Royer scores. Again, you see the slip pick there by Royer. It's something I pointed out earlier. You saw it a lot on the left side with Simonson and Forgrave. Royer there does it on the right side. Just turns around and goes right to the net after looking like he's coming to set the pick, and the rest is history. It's 13-4. McAdam gets the ball up to Murphy. Murphy. Wildeboer. McCallion dances in front of the net, stopped by Cavalinas, and Nielsen is going to transition out. Nielsen, with that long stride, goes right around Wildeboer. Nielsen to the net, and he scores. In a straight line, Stefan Nielsen goes right to the net, and he just stuffs the ball in the cage. It's 14-4. Nothing fancy about that. It didn't even really look like he was moving all that much, all that well, but just that underrated length of stride. He pulls past Wildeboer and deposits it for the Outlaws' 14th of the game.
The Outlaws goal, score, unassisted, number 66, Nielsen. Down the goal, 10-3.
Here's Beret, gonna fire this right off the shoulder of Cavalinas, and then he stands tall on Basisti. That'll be our second period media timeout with the score of the Outlaws 14, the Rebels 4. Battle of the Borders back in September in Missoula, Montana. Tour the beautiful University of Montana campus. Learn about the CROW LAX program and full ride scholarships available for Canadians. All while taking part in the annual North versus South Box Lacrosse tournament. Learn more today by following us on Instagram at Battle of the Border Lax. So we restart play here with the Rebels in possession and Peterson going around the net. Peterson takes a check on the back. The Outlaws gonna get a penalty here. Basisti, Beret, back to Basisti. Skip pass to Wildeboer. Wildeboer back to Basisti. Basisti drags it down to Wheaton. Wheaton makes his way out in front, stopped by Cavalinas. Rebel power play will hit the floor. Here's McCallion off the top. Basisti, Wheaton, Basisti, McCallion back over. Now Wheaton down low, up high. Basisti, Beret down on the far crease, shoots that. Stopped by Cavalinas. Ball is head-manned up. Here's McCann, who's had a few chances in transition. McCann got it to Rye. Couldn't bring that in. And now Beret lofts this too high. And Nielsen will pick it up. Steph Nielsen. He's going to get stripped there. And here go the Rebels. Bray tried to take off the pass a little high. But Bray goes and gets the loose ball. Greg Bray. Chased there by Needham. As the Rebel power play gets set once again. Bray just rips one. Stopped by Cavalinas. Wildeboer down to Beret. Basisti quickly over to Peterson. Down low, Wheaton. Beret. Basisti winds and fires and scores. Rebels able to click on that power play and now narrow the lead to 9.
The Rebels power play goals scored by number
Murphy with the loose ball off the drop. And he runs out over center.
Jordan Wheaton and number 16, Greg
Here's Peterson. Basisti still with the ball. Basisti, Peterson. Now over with McCallion. McCallion across the top. Step back down and then threw it away. And here's McCann. McCann and Horlock. 2-on-1. McCann's going to keep, take, and stopped, or maybe it missed the net. They say it missed the net, and it'll be Rebel ball. Here's Wildeboer. He gets it to Wheaton. Ball into the stick of Basisti. Double seal there by Wheaton and Peterson. Basisti tried to flip it back down to Wheaton. Ball goes loose. And it's picked up by the Outlaws. Here's Needham. Forgrave, great catch there. Saves it. Gets it up high to Simonson. Simonson down low. Harris whips it into the stick of Tokar. Now Forgrave on a bad angle on the wrong side of the floor with the shot clock winding down. Just tried to flip it at the net. It'll be Rebels possession. Here's Basisti. Basisti flips it down to Wheaton. Too high. And now the ball is going to be grinded for in the near corner. Wheaton getting harangued there. And now Wheaton and Nielsen going at it behind the play here. Somebody was yelling. I don't know what the heck was going on there. As Sandberg up high to Simonson. Sandberg winds and fires. Sandberg's got kind of that, he flipped the head of his stick around. I remember seeing that. I believe Victoria picked him up in 2022, the year they went to the Minto. The same year the Miners went on to lose in the final to Whitby, made it all the way to the final and lost in the third game to Whitby. 99.9% sure Sandberg was on that Victoria team. That was also in that Minto. Here's Wheaton in front, and he tried to dive out, turned away. Here's Royer, gets it to Forgrave. Forgrave, Rye, bounces in, that's fought off by Stable. Simonson with the good loose ball. Dewart down low. Here's Rye. Tried to skip it down to Simonson, who was cutting back door. Something he likes to do a lot is cut really hard back, behind everybody on that back door and quick stick it. He'll just dart in out of nowhere. And he's had a lot of success with that over the years. Beret flips it out in front behind McCallion. It's going to be picked up by Peterson. Peterson gets it to Wildeboer, who fires it off the mask, it looked like, of Cavalinas. The ball is going to be bounced into the near corner. Wildeboer, loose ball. Down low, Basisti jammed one at the net, couldn't tuck it. Not much space there, and now this is 2-0 for the Outlaws. But a bad pass there by Forgrave results in Rebel possession. Here's Beret. .340 to go here, second period. Beret winds and fires. That got soaked. Ball goes into the far corner, and Wildeboer collects. Wildeboer, a little bit of a turnaround shot. Now rebound, Basisti. Basisti tried to tuck it back short side. And unable to do so. He must have missed the net, because that's back over, they're calling, and it's Outlaws ball. As they ask for a wipe, official Sean Reed asking for a wipe on the floor here. We pause for a second. I want to thank you for joining us here on CROW LAX TV. Just hit subscribe, you'll be notified every time a game goes live. look about ready to start back up here. Here's Harris up high, Simonson, Rye. Now to Joe Royer. He skips out of the corner. Royer looking to dish it, and it gets picked off nicely there by Nguyen. Nguyen is going to run out. He's chased by Royer. Nguyen gets stripped. The ball goes into the far corner where Nguyen grabs it back. Nguyen is going to have to pull this out here. He's still in possession of it somehow. And now Murphy. As Alex Wildeboer winds and fires wide. Ball goes loose. And it'll be outlaw ball. Here's Rye as the delayed call is coming up against the Rebels. And the Outlaws will go 6-on-5. Seal for Forgrave. Forgrave shoots. Stop by Stable. And with 2:11 to go in the second period, the Outlaws return to the power play. Ball with Rye. Now up to Sandberg, who's playing the top of this power play. Sandberg. Harris tried to tuck it short side. Sandberg. Royer. Harris down low behind the back feed. That hit something. Might have hit pipe, and then Royer with the rebound attempt fires it wide. It'll be Rebel possession. McAdam goes down awkwardly. He looks like he's all right, as he almost got around the check of Forgrave. And McAdam forced to loose. Dallin Rye down to Tokar, to Royer, back up to Rye. Now the lefties touch it. Harris. Rye. As they did try to run something over on the right side, or on the left side, excuse me. And the ball bounces back down. Looked like a cross pick from, like a cross seal from Royer and a down seal from the lefty shooter, trying to free up that crease guy, I imagine, to come around and catch the ball, but didn't quite work out. And the Outlaw power play comes back on the floor now. Harris, Rye. Back to Harris. Tokar. Harris gonna step into this, and he fires and scores. So the Outlaws get to 15 here, and they have a 15-5 lead. Ball is Almost picked up by McCann, and then Royer bats it forward. Unable to grab it in time was McCann, but now he does. In behind the net, he loses it again. As Royer works hard to try to recover it. Here go the Rebels back down. McAdam to the net. Carter McAdam scores. Carter McAdam finds the short side. Went to the net hard. It's 15-6. With just 12 seconds to go here in the second period, the Rebels narrow it back down to 9, which teams right now seem to be trading goals. Simonson comes in and picks it up off the draw. Time ticking down here, 5 seconds. Simonson pushed to the boards. Now Royer rips it, and it almost goes through Stable. Stays out though, and that'll do it for 2 periods. Where the score after 40 minutes of play, the Beaumont Outlaws 15 at the Fort Saskatchewan Rebels 6. I want to thank you for joining us here on the welcome back inside the Ken Nickel Recreation Center for third period action between the Senior B Outlaws and the Senior B Rebels as the ball gets knocked back into Outlaw territory where it's picked up by the Rebels. That's Fraser Barrett. Gets it up high to Murphy, who swings it over to McCallion. Ball moves across floor, back over to Murphy. McCallion winds and fires. Stopped. I believe that is Jace Lysenko now in the net for the Outlaws. As Simonson gets it up to Horlak. Horlak will stay and play some offense. He's played a lot of offense throughout his career. Forgrave, drag move underneath. Forgrave, top corner, short side. Got his defender to sort of turn his head, and as soon as he did, he went underneath him on the drag move. And it's 16-6. Now off the draw. Picked up by McAdam, who will make his way down the far boards. Peterson. McAdam back to Basisti. Tight pass there, short pass to McAdam. Back to Peterson. Peterson, bad angle shot. Stopped. And Peterson will go and collect the loose ball. Here's Nolski to Peterson, back over, and Basisti got it to McCallion. Peterson up top now, rolls one in the direction of the net. Hits something and went out. I believe it went off an Outlaws. Dallin Wright gets up off the floor. I have to think that hit him. Took a ball off the leg. The Rebels go back to work. Offensively, Nolski, Basisti. Basisti tried to feed Peterson, but it was wide of him. And Wildeboer floats one in the direction of the net. Goes high, it'll be back over. And the Outlaws will take possession. Forgrave. Sandberg tried to feed Simonson in tight. Didn't work out. Now the ball goes to the far boards, picked back up by the Outlaws. Dewart, skip pass. Simonson, that was not brought in. And the Outlaws maintain possession. Forgrave controls it. Flips it over to Tokar. Tokar to Sandberg. Sandberg. So Simonson and fired it down to the far crease where Tokar was, and quick stick turned away by Stable. Here's Murphy running around with it into the deep part of the floor. Beret tried to fire it to the far corner where Wheaton was located, and now the ball is scooped up by the Outlaws. Dallin Rye tried to hit McCann in front of the net as he was cutting across. Ball is picked up by the Rebels. Here's Peterson. Peterson chased by Needham. His stick's knocked out of his hands, but the ball goes to McCallion. Here's Beret. Beret to the net. Greg Beret, low shot, stopped by Lysenko. Now ball swung over. Peterson, awkward shot there, way wide. He goes and collects the loose ball. Ethan Peterson fires and hits the post. Ball back near center. Wildeboer grabs that. Here's Basisti. Backs a defender in. Basisti. Peterson back over to Bray. Pick set there. Bray steps around it, and he goes off the bar. As the Outlaws race after it. Here's Dallin Rye. Dallin Rye to the net. Stopped by Stable. Ball goes to the far boards where Baldock will go collect it. Baldock to Luke Royer. Saved there by Joe. Now up to Simonson. That shot comes in and they get the reset. The Rebels try to run it down here. Simonson will grab it. Here's Joe Royer now. Waiting patiently, and he gets it up to Simonson. Harris trying to get his hands free. Gets it over to Joe Royer. Joe Royer over there with Josh Dewart. Dewart, hard pick on the back there, and the ball ends up in the stick of Luke Royer, who quick sticks it into the short side. 17-6. Now off the draw.
The Outlaws goal scored by number 27, Luke Royer.
They are going to really battle for it here. Good pick up there by Horlak. Horlak looking good here for the Outlaws. Playing in a role that he's not used to playing out the back gate. And he's made a big difference for them. Gives them a nice stick coming out the back door. Somebody that can get loose balls, can go up on fast breaks and transition the ball up the floor. Here's Forgrave. Back door, and Tokar got turned away there. Good opportunity. Outlaws moving the ball nice here tonight. Now, here's Wildeboer. Shot comes in. And that's going to be transitioned back out by Beaumont. Here comes Joe Royer. He almost paddles as he runs sometimes when he has the ball. As he gets the ball back up. Sandberg fires and scores. Mitch Sandberg gets on the board here. And the Outlaws extend their lead to 18-6. Now the Outlaws opened their season against the Miners with a pair of games at Bill Hunter, and they led both games either deep into the second period or into the third, and ended up losing both games by roughly 5 or 6 goals. So they just suffered some, I didn't see these games, but I would imagine they didn't play their best lacrosse, maybe a little bit of wearing down over the course of a 60-minute game against a very physical, big Miners team, and a Miners team that knows how to win. So you also got to remember that, but the Outlaws putting pedal to the metal here tonight. Up big.
The Outlaws goal scored by number 91, Mitch Sandberg. Assist number 51, Josh Stewart. Top of the goal, 13-25.
Now down low, Basisti walks out and scores. Everybody's getting their goals here tonight in Beaumont. Basisti now with a couple. And it's 18-7. officials try to sort out what the face-off violation was here. And they're going to redraw. Ball is going to be picked up here by Fraser Barrett, and he flips it to Wildeboer. Wildeboer up floor. Gets it to Basisti. The former junior A minor hands it off to Peterson. Now Basisti's going to have to run back. Grab it. Gets it to McCallion. Beret. Going to hold on to it. Now he gets it to Basisti. Basisti, long outside shot from the wrong side of the floor. Gets a pat on the back from Stefan Nilsson and heads off. Dallin Rye. Sandberg. Here's Forgrave. Over to Royer. Dewart back to Royer. Quickly. Dewart slips into the middle. Sandberg looking for another. Stopped. Here go the Rebs as they come back down. And in the stick of Wheaton, Peterson, McCallion underneath, McCallion, stopped by Lysenko. 11:50 to go here, third period, Outlaws in full control, 18-7 here from Ken Nickel Arena. Here's Forgrave. Maneuvering and got it to Simonson. Here is Tokar, Forgrave. Forgrave surveys, takes a big hack there, flips it into the middle. There was a bunch of players there. Didn't connect. And then Royer with a spin around shot. Seen him do that 100 times, I think, between all the games I have done in the Junior B League. And just watching him play over the years. Coached against him too in Bantam, and I remember him being exactly that same type of player. Always around the front of the net and making these quick little movements to free himself up to get opportunities. Now the ball's with Wildeboer. He gets stopped by Lysenko. And Sandberg had that ball rolled past his feet, where Fowler goes and collects it behind his own net, or beside his own net. And the Rebels come back out. Here's Barrett. Peterson finds Wildeboer. Over to Basisti. Basisti tries to flip it down to Peterson, and he got it there. Stopped by Lysenko. Also a former minor of the Junior A variety, as the Outlaws come back to another former Junior A minor, Dallin Rye. Rye. Looking, dishes, Forgrave. Quick pass down to Royer. The quick stick was turned away. Here goes Scrimshaw. Bothered there by Forgrave and Rye. And Wildeboer will roll away from pressure. Alex Wildeboer flips it over to Nolski. Ball down to Wheaton. Back to Nolski, and he can't bring it in. Now we got penalty. As I look down, I did not see what the call was. We'll wait for it. Scrimshaw looks like he's going to the box. And we'll have our third and final media timeout. return to play here. 2-minute power play for the Outlaws, already up 11. We got a feel for the Rebels here tonight. Tough one for them. And the Outlaws were literally up 7-0, a converted touchdown before this game was like 5 minutes old. And it was really over before it started. Tokar, Sandberg. Ball skips down to Forgrave, now back up with Harris to Sandberg. Sandberg, Tokar, and he scores. 19-7. And I don't think, like, if you were to go to each of the Outlaws' houses this morning and ask them how this game would play out, I don't know if they could have envisioned or drawn up a better version of this. Like, every single guy is getting touches, everybody's contributing, everybody's getting shots, everybody's doing what they need to do to help the team, and they're having basically what is their dream game here tonight. Off the draw.
Score by number 19.
And the Rebels will grab it. McAdam.
Score by number 9. Dallas Needham. Assistant number 91.
Hit there by McCann. He gets it away into Sisti. Looks and waits for some help. Peterson. Now Basisti across the top. Basisti tried to fight one through Lysenko. Unable to do so, and now here come the Outlaws. They're going to say 8 seconds, and it'll be Rebel ball. Here's Peterson. Peterson down the far wall, back up to McCallion. McCallion circles around. Wheaton comes out and almost had that one slide through Lysenko. Outlaws. Wide open is Simonson, and looked like it went in, but apparently it stayed out. Here's Murphy. Peterson. McCallion now gets it to the half wall where Noski awaits. Peterson down the wall underneath, and he gets stripped of the ball. And the ball is thrown over the head of McCann, and the Rebels will grab it back. And at this point, this is just let this game end for both of these teams, the way they're playing this, and I don't blame them. Wheaton to Basisti. Tried to change the platform of his shot there, the angle of his shot, the release point, and that's picked up by the Outlaws. Here's Royer. Simonson winds, misses the net. And here go the Rebels. It's Scrimshaw trying to get across center floor, and he does. It's not what? Oh, sorry. As that shot gets taken by Wildeboer, and it goes far side low. It's 19-8 now with 6:11 to go in the third period. So the Outlaws now have their lead cut down to 11, not in any danger of obviously losing the game. It's now just a matter of semantics and what the final score is going to read, because the outcome has been determined. Nolski picks the loose ball up. Nolski gets it over to Murphy. Here's Wildeboer. Wheaton over to Murphy. Wheaton, the pick. Wheaton goes through. And McCallion's chased way out. And looks like the Rebels are going to get 8 seconds put on the shot clock here instead of 4. Here's Wildeboer. Wildeboer shoots that wide. That's a reset. And it's going to be picked up by Nilsson. Nilsson to Needham. 5.5 to go. Dewart in the middle. Joe Royer scores. So the Outlaws extend their lead to 12 here with just over 5 minutes to play.
The Outlaws goal, scorer number 2, Joe Royer.
Here's Simonson.
Assistant number 51, Josh Stewart.
Foregrave
Goal 5-19.
comes down the boards. Sandberg. Foregrave. Back over. Here is Royer. Shot comes in, and it was at the 5-hole stable. This time he turns it away. Beret has Murphy break into the net. Matt Murphy, a little high, and the ball gets picked back up by Foregrave. Here's Dewart. Lane to the net. Josh Dewart stopped by Stable. And here come the Rebels now. Wildeboer. Wildeboer gets stripped by Luke Royer, and he pinballs his way back the other way. Just the way Luke runs, man. It's something else as the ball gets rolled back and into the stick of Joe. Foregrave. Sandberg. Here's Royer. Drags it. Shoots it. Stopped by Stable. Loose ball. Sandberg comes away with it. He fires it over to Joe Royer. Simonson down low. Ball in behind the net. Now over to Joe Royer. Royer. Sandberg. He surveys behind the net. Tried to jam it into a tight window for Harris. Didn't work. 2 Rebels were around him, and it'll be Rebel possession. These are the tough ones, folks. It's tough to stay in it when games go this way. As Peterson gets the ball, and as it gets flung back over to Basisti, he shoots and it's stopped. Peterson to Beret, who's cutting, and he gets stopped by Lysenko. Jace gets it up floor where Foregrave will jog up. 2:45 to go. Outlaws 20. Yes, 20. Rebels 8. Here's Sandberg. Sandberg. Tokar. Dewart. Simonson. Tokar. And that gets stopped by Stable. Here's McCallion. McCallion to the half wall. Nolski tries to go underneath his defender. Nolski to the net, and they'll call him for stepping inside the crease. And Nilsson will bring it up for the Outlaws. And here it is with Forgrave. So they hang on to it. I doubt they're even really going to try and shoot here. This is where you roll it in the corner. Joe cuts back door. I was going to say, it's usually where you sort of just roll it in the corner and get off the floor. As the Rebels come back down the other way. Noyan taking a couple whacks with his stick. And it'll be Outlaw ball. Forgrave. The Outlaws just waste this 30 here. Osterman. Bunch of D guys out here on the floor for the Outlaws. And the Rebels come back the other way. Here's Fowler. Ball into the stick of Peterson. Now Wildeboer. Beret to the net. Beret try to crease dive. Ball goes flying out of his stick, and it'll be Outlaw ball. Bit of a suicide pass there. Simonson gets his head up and evades some trouble, and Royer will just knock it back to him. That's going to do it here. From Ken Nickel Arena, as the final seconds tick down. And your final score from Beaumont will be the Beaumont Outlaws 20, the Fort Saskatchewan Rebels 8. The Outlaws improved to 1-2 after a pair of losses on the road to the minors, while the Rebels fall to 1-2. Final score out of Beaumont: the Outlaws 20, the Rebels 8. Thank you so much for joining us here on the channel. CROW LAX TV, hit subscribe to be notified every time a game goes live. We'll see you soon, and take care, everybody.